to Ukraine. Believe and pray.
Last panel before lunch, we have Future Tech Panel Episode 2, Scaling Agile. And Sanjiva Nath is going to be our moderator. He's the CEO of zAgile, a collaborative and middleware suite. He has more than 30 years of experience in software technology and advises startups in software engineering operations and offshore software development. Prior to founding zAgile, he served as a VP of engineering at a series of companies that went through high-profile acquisitions. And Sanjiva holds a bachelor's degree in molecular biology from San Francisco State, and he will introduce his panel. Please welcome Sanjiva.
Well, thank you, everyone. So thanks for coming. So actually, let's get the panelists here as well. And what I'd like to do is to maybe set up a little context for what we're going to talk about. We have 20 minutes to cover this topic of scaling Agile. And you know, when I look at it, I assume that the organizers figured that we're talking about Agile, so it can be done really fast. And you know, so I think that brings us to a starting point, because you know, and for today, we missing one?
We are.
Okay. So you know, we have, I hope we have a very good forum for you guys, because on one side you have the panelists, and they're representing you know, companies, organizations that I see are like enablers of scaling, right? They help you scale teams, they help you scale product delivery, and they also bring a lot of experience and exposure to different industries, different cycles, different types of cultures of software delivery. And then, of course, as you heard already, my background, on this side, I could potentially represent the client because I've done a lot of outsourcing. I've advised teams on how to build teams, you know, how to scale teams, essentially, in different countries. And then over the last 8 years, I've also been involved in developing tools and platforms for distributed teams so they can collaborate together. So I bring both the client side of it, of the perspective, and also as a tool maker, if you would. So as we get started, and I think as we get our panel together, you know, you'll obviously hear from them. You know, they'll have an opportunity to provide brief introduction. But one of the first things I was thinking about is, you know, what is Agile? I mean, qu'est-ce que c'est Agile? Does everybody understand it quite the same way? And the reason I say that is because from my experiences and my observations, you know, Agile to me feels a lot like Web 2.0. If you guys were around 10, 12 years ago, you know, you could go to tech parties, for example, and somebody would introduce themselves like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm doing a Web 2.0 thing. I can't tell you anything more because otherwise I have to kill you, but it's Web 2.0. And it was like a very trendy thing, right? And so, you know, you have venture, you know, pitches, investor pitches, for example. The first 2 slides are Web 2.0, and after that, well, we'll figure the rest of it out, but we need $3 million. You know? So I think Agile is similar in some ways. I see it, you know. I mean, I see CEOs coming to you and saying, well, hey, how come you're not doing Agile, you know? And if you tell them that you are, then they'll, you know, scamper away happily because they already got a slide for their board meeting. You know, we have our engineering team that are doing Agile, and they're not going to blow $50 million to get release 1 out because they're doing Agile. In fact, they do sprints. You know, hell, beyond sprints, they're doing relays, you know. So I don't know what that means, actually. So I think as we talk about that, as we talk about scaling Agile, you know, I think it's better to get on the same page on what Agile is, and then we can, you know, cover the rest of it. So that actually is a starting point for the first question. What I like to do is, you know, turn it over to the panelists and basically have them, you know, spend a couple of minutes talking about their experience, you know, within the context of Agile. What do they do? What do the organizations represent? And then how does Agile fit in? And what does it mean to them and to their customers? So starting with Yuri.
Thank you. My name is Yuri Pryadko, and I'm one of the founding members of Cogniance, a company with deep Ukrainian and deep United States roots. In fact, since our day one, we've been an international company spanning both Kiev and Silicon Valley. And my background is computer engineering and project management. In fact, I was setting up the project management office and was behind a lot of delivery processes that we use at Cogniance to help our clients deliver the innovative products that they need, deliver them fast in a cost-efficient manner, and deliver the product that people will actually love, users will love. So we are working on improving our Agile, should I say, compatibility and our own understanding of Agile every day. Thank you.
Christian?
Okay, hello. I'm Christian Aaen. I represent Ciklum. I'm part of the management team there, and I'm running the group within the company that is helping our clients become more productive. I think a good way to sort of also frame the discussion why we are talking about Agile here is really throughout the morning we've heard how great engineers that we have in Ukraine. We heard about how fast the technology space is moving. And so it becomes increasingly important to figure out a way or a vehicle of getting all that expertise mixed up with the expertise that is at client sites. And teams become increasingly integrated. So really what Agile is for us is also, it's not anarchy like it was in the good old days. It's really about creating some visibility and some measurability and, at the end of the day, accountability. Because the process in itself is not necessarily that interesting. It's the business outcome that really matters. Okay?
Thank you. Well, actually, that's a really great point Christian raises, because one of the most fundamental challenges why, we even start talking about Agile is because people struggle with visibility and predictability of software delivery. I mean, nobody knows when it's going to happen. It's kind of like Heisenberg's principle of uncertainty, So, can you meet the requirements and at the same time, I mean, those things would never converge. And that's not really true. I mean, it's not about quantum mechanics. So I think Agile maybe gives people that perception, at least outside of software engineering. So what I'm hearing is three things, really. First, there's a sense of more control, more visibility into what's happening. And then the second, there's speed and cost reduction, right? Those are three sort of factors in Agile. So when you talk about Agile with your clients, I mean, that's kind of what you assume they think it's going to be, right? Regardless of what I think it is, So let's move to the next topic then. Within that context of Agile, and of course you guys bring a lot of experience, so I think I'd like to leverage that for this session. What do you think are the key factors? Like if you want to succeed with this, I mean, if you want to provide this visibility, control, cost reduction and stuff, what are the critical factors for any organization here, for example, that wants to scale up? What would they need? What do you think will be important to them?
I wanted to name three main things that I believe lay at the very foundation of Agile software development and Agile as a more high-level concept. I think in order to be truly Agile, you need to have experience, you need to have awareness, and you need to have trust. So speaking of experience, this one is really simple. You need to be really proficient at whatever you are doing. Either it's engineering or design or business development or process consulting. I would dare to say that it's almost impossible to do Agile with a team of juniors. Command and control systems work much better in that case. Think military, relatively few senior people can effectively manage a lot of relatively junior people, right? In order to really embrace change, in order to really empower your team to do things in a truly Agile way, the team needs to get the bases covered. Second thing I was thinking about is awareness. Your own domain expertise, your own personal expertise in what you are proficient with is good, but it's not enough. You need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be aware of the business domain. If speaking of engineering, yeah, we are a company of engineers and we have a very high engineering culture. I also have this background. That's why I'm speaking that much of the delivery side of it. But it also applies to all the other aspects. You need to be aware of what are the other teammates of you thinking. What is their process? What is their approach? If you're an engineer, for example, and you also understand what's happening in the head of your design colleague, you immediately have an edge over the competition. When you start to understand what is that your business stakeholder wants and why do they want it, you get forward dramatically. And trust basically builds on top of those two. When you think of your team, if you're a business stakeholder, when you think of your team as being professional and understanding what they're doing, you can entrust them with making more and more decisions. And Agile is about self-directing teams. So in order to self-direct the project delivery, if we're speaking of the project, there has to be a good deal of trust.
Okay, so a couple of takeaways that at least I hear. One is experience. You got to know what you're doing, because obviously if the problem is broken down into small chunks, then you have to be able to deliver it. And you can deliver that with some level of speed if you have proficiency. And then the second is trust, right? I mean, which is basically, I think trust goes both ways, because it's not just trust within the engineering teams and how they're operating, but also trust at the executive level. At least in my view, that their delivery paradigm and however they are managing themselves would ultimately result in exactly what's needed out for the market and for the business. The reason is because a lot of the methodologies or practices for Agile involve delivering things in smaller chunks, right? So trust, I think, yeah, I would say a huge factor. I mean, it's, of course, it's incremental. I mean, it's the quote from one of the movies I was watching recently. First we try, then we trust. What about you?
Yeah, so fundamentally, I can't disagree with those points. But if we're looking at Agile at scale, I think there are, aside from the basics which we discussed here, are three main points really, which is governance and alignment throughout the organization. It's focus on execution, and then there's focus on the architecture. Because one of the main problems or challenges that we tend to see with our client base when they are scaling is that there's a lot of talk around Agile and how great that is, but really Agile is best at building features fast and get them to market fast. But in order to do that, you need to have a runway at which, a technical architectural runway at which you can build these features. And really once you start to add multiple teams, the alignment not only in the tech team, but also on the program level, and especially also on the exec level, where budgets are being allocated, is extremely important. So when we're talking about Agile at scale, there are really those 3 points, at least from my perspective and also from my experience.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I mean, actually, now I'm starting to wonder, why are we talking about scaling Agile? I mean, the things that you talk about, those are factors that affect Agile, but what is it? I mean, is there some challenge associated with scaling Agile? Do we have to do something differently, if you were to scale it? So, in terms of your perspectives, I want to get to that point now. What is it about scaling Agile? What does one need to do differently?
I think scaling Agile as a problem is something that not a lot of people talk about. Standard, if you think of Scrum framework, standard team is 7 plus minus 2 or 3, right? And no one really speaks about how do you approach the team of 100? How do you approach the team of several of the program, several projects working in unison? How do you create that alignment? How do you create that accountability for joint results, not only within the team, right? So I think that actually Agile is not about the process, but about the way of thinking. If there is one takeaway from this discussion I'd like you to have, it would be to really separate the Agile as a concept and the process frameworks. A lot of people believe that Agile is Scrum, or Agile is Kanban, or so they were told, right? It's not entirely true. Agile is this Agile manifesto, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, embracing change, all that kind of things that really apply to any process framework. So I would say that some of the older, what we call classical frameworks, have a lot of good things that that we can take and embrace. Speaking of managing bigger programs, in our experience and in our delivery process that I've already mentioned, that we were setting up to address our specific customer needs. Being innovative but at the same time delivering with a consistent quality. We have a lot of components from Rational Unified Process. We have a lot of things from CMMI. It's not about the process. So if you're doing Scrum, you're not necessarily Agile. You need to embrace the mode of thinking, constantly questioning things and constantly striving and embracing that change, putting people first, asking your customer what do they need, asking business stakeholders, asking your colleagues. And this is the key to Agile, not the process. And the process behind it should be as lightweight as possible, but there should be a process. You cannot just throw a bunch of people, referring to that Web 2.0 entrepreneurs that say that they do Agile. In some people's mind, Agile is chaos. No, it's not. It's a way of thinking. And the process can be whatever works, whatever floats your boat.
Well, I don't know about y'all, but I like them already. So. And of course, I agree. That's why, because it is, we named our companies Agile, and it's not because we were practicing something. It's about the way of thinking and not so much a specific practice. Anything to add? Talk about visibility and predictability. We have 3 minutes and 26 seconds left, so quick comment?
Yeah, I think you asked the question, why are we even talking about scaled agility? The people in this room and the tech industry in Ukraine, we want to grow. We want to grow past small projects and get in and start working on larger programs. And the main challenge that at least we see from our company is that when we engage with client organizations, we tend to run into lots of bottlenecks within their existing organization. And so Agile is not just having a great team of engineers working on something. It's really about embedding it throughout the organization, also the client organization, but of course also the delivery organization, aligning it in a way that kills those bottlenecks and ensures the cadence and the predictability, because that tends to be one of the main problems when you are adding multiple Scrum teams. You tend to lose that visibility unless you start to do things a bit differently and unless you address it in all the different layers of the organization.
Okay, let me turn to something, maybe a minute each, because we got less than 2 minutes left. Let's talk about tooling, okay? Because when you do Google, like on scaling Agile or something, you'll find a lot of product companies, like Rally Dev or Version 1 or whatever. They all help you scale Agile in the enterprise, whatever that means. So from your perspective, and we've got not a whole lot of time left, but what aspect of tooling would you recommend? What's important in terms of when teams get together, how they do what they do?
I think this would be the most boring answer. I really believe in companies that eat their own food they produce. So I'm a big fan of Atlassian products. And the best thing I like about what they do, I mean, the industry standard, Jira, Confluence, Fisheye, Crucible, what have you. The best thing I like about what they do is that they allow to set up workflows and interactions which would be similar for all projects, for all the delivery workflows to enable the accountability, but at the same time they allow you to divert if that's what you need in your specific case.
Okay.
Yeah. To my experience, I mean, Atlassian, the tool suite is a good tool suite, but what tends to be that tool suite's challenge is, again, to create visibility on a more enterprise level. There are tools out there like Rally version 1 who have started to build in this new scaled Agile framework. It's not so much the framework, but it's the ability to create that visibility throughout the portfolio, program, and team level. And that's the most important with the tool. If you're just two people sitting working remote, a Google spreadsheet can be fantastic. But when you're adding multiple people, multiple layers of the organization, and need to create that visibility, tooling becomes extremely important.
Awesome. So we're like about 4 seconds behind. I think that's it, right? Do we have time for Q&A, or is everybody like really pressed for lunch?